Before we go to Gothenburg, I would just like to ask, like in general, since that time that you started playing bass and today, how have you trained playing bass? Playing bass.
Actually, I'm very lazy. I should train much more than I do, but I think I'm never the person to sort of sit down and I need to train these things and that technique and all that. I'm more or less either I've been playing with bands and training that way. There was actually a time in my life where I was in 3 bands at the same time, so there was like basically rehearsing 6 times per day, 6 times per week, and sort of train like that. But training wise, I really need to kick my ass and just sit down and train playing. But I often sort of just pick music and I try to play along with it. Sometimes music that sort of brings me good mood. Sometimes music that sort of more challenge me in a technical kind of way. And it's really great fun when you don't have the possibility of sort of getting into a rehearsal room and rehearse with other musicians. Then that is the best possible substitute I can come up with at the time.
So you don't have like a signature like warm-ups or anything like that?
Yeah, well, if I sort of have to sit down and do some rehearsing on my own for like an Amaranthe show or whatever, or if I just want to sort of practice in that sense, I always tend to first start off with some really sort of basic rock and roll, easygoing, like 60s rock and roll or something. Sometimes Pearl Jam or something equivalent. And then when I get warmed up, I very often sort of slide over to sit and play with Tool with their songs.
Yeah.
Which is always a challenge because it's trust me, it's much more difficult than you think.
Yeah.
It's very ingenious. All the drums and the bass and how it comes together is very, very cleverly done in Tool.
I agree.
Yeah.
But now let's continue to Gothenburg. You at some point in your life, was it your late teens or early 20s, you moved to Gothenburg?
I think it was my early 20s, if I'm not mistaken. Long story short, I met a girl from Gothenburg, and I lost my job in my hometown because I was a freaking slacker. So I just felt like, yeah, fuck it, why not just move to Gothenburg? Got an apartment and just moved. But at that time, we still tried to have this band Bruce sort of floating, but people went off to universities and all that, and it was getting difficult for me to take the bus like 1 hour one way in order for just rehearse a few hours and then rush off to the bus to catch the last bus home again. So it's sort of, I think we never call it a quits, so to speak, but we sort of just drifted apart.
Yeah.
Still in contact with the guys, but music-wise, we just sort of, it just ran out, so to speak.
Yeah.
And also at that time, I started to develop this sort of interest more and more for martial arts, and especially kickboxing and Thai boxing. So I sort of spaced out in that universe for quite some time as well, and didn't play actively in any band or anything, just like working, training, and doing that for quite some time. So that was my start in Gothenburg, actually.
So you started Thai boxing then, and then now later you have started it again, but we can address that a little bit later.
Yeah,
but
let's keep to the timeline.
Yeah. So through moving to Gothenburg, you got to know the metal scene. Yeah,
I had an old friend that I used to play with back in my hometown that moved to Gothenburg before me, and we started to hang out a bit and all that, sort of going to bars in Gothenburg and rock shows and all that, metal shows most of, and he was in a band singing, a band called Headplate. sort of new metal band, and their bass player decided to call it a quits. He had it. He had enough. Brilliant guy. I mean, he could really go far, but he just felt like, I'm done. So I got the call from my friend who asked if I would like to fill the space, and I just like, well, okay, I can give it a try, but I haven't played in a while, and new metal has never been my thing. But okay, let's give it a go. Yeah. So I tried, and I got accepted, so to speak. So that's when it started. My music interest sort of sparked off again after being on a bit of a hiatus for a while. Yeah. So started off playing new metal, and we did a couple of shows and getting more involved, hanging out with people in bars and stuff, and getting to know people more, because in Gothenburg, basically most of the bands rehearsed in this one big complex with a lot of rehearsal rooms. So you're sort of starting to meet people and recognize people, and getting to know people in a much different way than before, than what you do like if you go to a bar or something.
And like we discussed last time, it was a really active scene in Gothenburg.
Oh yeah. Apparently it was much more active a couple of years before, but it was still like really vibrant and active in the sort of underground scene and smaller bands. And there was always shows every weekend somewhere. And also there was much more places to play, much more small venues and bars and all that, where you could pull off your own shows and stuff. So you could basically go and see a very good band every weekend. Yeah. And also everyone knew everyone. And that at that time, it sort of occurred to me that a band, because I was on this expression that a band is a band, it's a community, it's like a one organism, and a family. You don't go live with another family. You stay with your band and you play with them only. But in Gothenburg, I sort of started to realize that people just jumping in between bands. So the drummer in that band, he played bass in that band, and then he sang in that band, and then he played drums in a fourth band. So it was like this really big family, and really much helping each other out if there was any problems with anything. So it was a very good sense of community in Gothenburg back then.
That actually sounds a little bit like Oulu at the peak before the COVID situation, because there was an opportunity to see at least one or two or even three bands every weekend. Yeah. And there's the situation that a drummer might be in three bands or even playing another instrument in another band. So,
and it's so fun to see, because the common misconception about metal people, like people who are not in the scene or related to the scene in any way, thinks that metal people are just egoistic, diehard assholes. And of course, there are some that are that, but actually there is a lot of sort of sense of brotherhood and family feeling into it, and people help each other out, because well, now it's starting to be more and more accepted with metal music, but back in the days it wasn't accepted. I mean, you were accused of being a Satanist or eating kids or sacrificing dogs or whatever. I mean, it was just so frowned upon. Now it's like, I mean, for God's sake, famous metal musicians are now doing like TV shows and family TV shows and game shows and all that, and it's like just a different sort of acceptancy, but still this sort of us against them feeling, and we need to help each other out, is, I feel that is still around.
Yeah, and
in a big sense.
The thing that everybody does is that they share each other's publications and support each other by going to their gigs and everything like that. Yeah. So it has been the same kind of thing has been happening from that time today, but I think that in Oulu there's a really healthy scene in that way, that everybody, at least almost everybody, is trying to help each other out. In a way,
because in many ways there are not that much help to get from from the outside perspective, so to speak. So you need to help each other out. And I think it is also one of the things that actually founded the whole metal community worldwide. It's this sense of belonging, being in this sort of club, if you like. And I honestly think that is something that has just stuck since day one when it started off, wherever it started, I don't know. And I think it's very typical to small towns as well, because Gothenburg it's a big town, but it's also a small town in a global sense. And the music world and music scene is so literally very, very small. And you just help out. That's just you. If you want to be an asshole and keep your contacts and shit by yourself, to yourself, then you're not going to get any far.
Yeah.
Because then no one wants to help you when you need help. So you get what you give.
And we had a really good "Don't be an asshole" conversation last time
on our rehearsal run.
Yeah, rehearsal run, in the way that kind of the people that are the true metal kind of attitude that they don't actually belong as well within the metal community, in my opinion, than people who are helping each other and being open-minded and everything like that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm true metal, or you're not a true metal band. Like, what? Please explain to me what true metal is. I mean, for some, it seems to be that, I can't listen to this band because they don't use real amplifiers live. Or, no, I can't listen to this band because they use backtracks live or click track. Or, I don't listen to this band because they don't use a cable. They have a wireless system. Jesus, I want an amplifier, my pointy metal guitar, a cable, and a distortion pedal. Maybe a wah-wah pedal for my kick-ass solos. And that's how I'm going to take over the world. Well, good luck. I mean, you have to be open-minded. You can't paint yourself into a corner like that. And true metal, come on, honestly. People who think they are true metal are basically, well, they don't have a clue what they're getting themselves into. So get a grip.
Yeah.
Open up your perspective a bit.
Yeah, and I've been fortunate enough to, I'm not a musician myself, but I've been fortunate enough to be working at a local venue at Club Teatria
and festivals as well.
And festivals as well. So I would say that 98% of people I meet are really friendly and are getting along, but then there's some people that are not so friendly in a way, but I would like to focus on the positive side, that most people, even more successful in a way or less successful in a way, they are always being so nice, and that kind of made me interested in doing more and more backstage work, so to speak, like being a stagehand and such. And also that is why I started this podcast, because without that work I wouldn't have the contacts to do this as well as I can nowadays.
Yeah, but you're literally like a sponge. You suck up all the information you can get, and I really admire that, because you work at venues and you talk with all the bands and all that, but you do it in an extremely correct, sort of polite way. And you can see that you really like your job and you take it serious, which is just fantastic, because many people don't understand what immense amount of work stagehands actually do. Yeah. And people working at venues just dragging all the gear back and forth, and people working at the festivals, it is an insane stressful time, and you work like 18 hours and you get a pat on the back and people yell at you, basically. And it is an insane work. And I think, as you know, I've always also done my fair share with that kind of work. And I think that sort of gave me a complete different respect for people behind the stage that actually makes the shit works and the shit happens.
In my honest opinion, I think that festivals are like easier in a way, even though they are physically more demanding because it's non-stop work usually.
Yeah.
But with venues is that a band might come to the venue at noon or in the morning.
Yeah.
Then you set up the stage. Then there's like a 6 or even an 8 hour break.
Yeah.
With sound checks and everything if there's just one band going on, and then you have to wait until the band stops playing, and then your work starts again.
Yeah.
But in case something happens, you have to stay at the venue.
Yeah. If you need to go get something or help out with whatever, and if something breaks or
that was the most demanding, I think, that when I did more of that work.
Yeah, but just that is unfortunately a big part of the whole music business, and especially live shows, is just waiting.
Yeah, you really have to have patience, and and even though you don't have that patience, you just must.
You must find it somehow.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. I mean, some people can take it, some people can't. But to every musician out there playing venues, big or small, or festivals, big or small, it doesn't matter. Try and treat everyone that works on a festival or venue with respect, because they come before you and they leave after you, and they do all the hard work for you, so you can go up and pretend to be a rock star. So just be respectful.
Let's continue with Amaranthe.
Oh, yeah.
How did you end up playing bass in Amaranthe?
Well, also one of those freaky accidents. No, actually it was when I was playing in this band, Head Plate, and that era of my life, you knew everyone, basically. And there were a couple of big music stores in Gothenburg, and there was this one music store that was closest to where I lived at the moment. So I just ended up to go there to buy whatever I needed, and sometimes just went there to hang out. And some of the guys working there also played in bands that rehearsed at the same space as I did. And I actually, I got to know them better, and we hung out in the rehearsal space, having coffee or whatever. Then ended up going to shows together and just hanging out and becoming friends. And one of those guys was the guy who goes under the name Andy Hell, aka Andreas Solveström. And he called me up one night, I think it was a Friday evening or something, and asked me, hey, have you heard about my project I'm part of, that named Amaranthe? No, can't really say that I did, sorry. And he started to explain that, it's me and a couple of guys and this girl, and he started to name drop, and I sort of recognized the name, and he tried to describe the guys, like, maybe know who he is, and I maybe know who that is. I'm pretty sure, I think. The girl, I have no idea, and you talk about this Danish drummer. I'm sorry, my knowledge with Danish people are slim.
Yeah.
However, he told me to go in on this old school website called MySpace to listen to it. So, cool. I gave it a listen and decided that I would call back, listen to it. And I think if it was Hunger or Leave Everything Behind that I heard first, I can't swear, but I think it was the sort of demo versions of it. And I kind of liked it, and it was like, okay, this is a bit different than what I've done before. Still metal, but still, okay. Yeah. Maybe not true metal.
Yeah.
Fuck true metal. No, but give it a listen. Why not? Because I've sort of, at that specific moment, I was in another band, then not Headplate. I sort of left Headplate just before that, and trying to get that band working. And then I got this offer, and I always wanted to play with Andy because we're great friends. So I just, and I like the music as well, so I just like, all right, let's see, let's try. So I got invited to one of the rehearsals. I got like a couple of songs to play through, and it went good. And we just decided pretty soon that because they had their very first show at Sticky Fingers, I think it was Actually, it was 2nd of October 2009. 2009, yeah. Because it was the day before my 30th birthday.
Yeah.
That's how old I am. No, but we agreed that I would do the show and basically be this sort of session player. Not being part of the band, but just
play the shows
and all that. Which was very strange for me at that time, because session, well, that sounds like not metal, but okay.
So you had gotten used to the, like, if you're in a band, you're in a band.
Yeah, that was sort of my conception, or my idea of being in a band, that either you're in the band or you're not. And if you're in, you play. If you're not in, you don't play, period. But later on, sort of learned that session musicians are also doing metal. No, but we did the show in Gothenburg. We thought that it went great. Most likely it sounded like shit. I really don't want to go and find it.
Yeah.
But never mind. It went good. And after the show, I sort of got just in the bypassing by the singer Jake, he just like patted my shoulder and sort of just, hey, by the way, you're in the band. Okay. What about the session bullshit? You're in the band. So it was very de-dramatized in that sense. So, I was, before the show I was a session musician, after the show I was in the band.
So what was the journey from that first show and after you became a member to the first record?
We started off playing minor shows, more or less getting what we wanted, getting whatever we could get, as all bands. But we pretty soon, I think like 6 months after that first show, we got Spinefarm contacted us from their Helsinki office and asked if we were interested in putting up a record together with them. And of course we were. So it took some time of our manager at the time sort of wheeling and dealing back and forth. And then the summer after, in 2010, we signed this deal with Spinefarm at this Swedish festival in Gävle. I can't remember the name of the festival. Never mind. It was this festival that was in this town. And my sister's boyfriend, he had a friend that had a big ass yacht.
Yeah.
And he sort of like, we are coming to the festival, because they always went to festivals. And we're going to go there with this big ass boat. And you can sign your contract on that. That would be so fucking cool.
Of course.
And we were like, cool. Set everything up. 2 A&Rs from Spinefarm came with the contract. And as always after a show, we played our show, and then of course you have a few beers and then some more, and then we headed off to the boat for this magic signing that we thought that in 1 hour we're gonna have a big ass party, drinking champagne and whatnot. But it just dragged out on time, because they wanted to go through every single point of this contract, making sure that we understood everything. So during this, we said, I can have one more beer. I can have one more beer. And later on, I think someone said, okay, if we're going to be able to sign this, we need to sign it now, because in 5 minutes, we're not going to be able to, because too much beer. So we simply just dropped all the conversations, signed it, and then there was this party, and rigged up with, on the flight deck of this boat, we had a small drum kit and amplifier, so we started to sort of jam. Once again, Metallica songs, I guess, and in this, in the harbor of this city, and making a lot of havoc and noise. And having a good party.
So these were Finnish record company people coming to Sweden to a boat. It's like the perfect stereotype of Petre folk.
It's like
we have here in Finland.
It was like this awesome start of a really bad idea. But it was a cool idea, but I think we would have executed it a bit different today, perhaps.
Fucking Swedish people with their yachts and
Finnish people come and you guys think you can drink. And no, but we had a lot of fun. It was good.
And also the fact that they really had you go through every page, that's also a really Finnish feature, I would think. in a way.
Yeah, but it is also very good because it's important for the record label to understand that the artist actually knows what they're signing.
Of
and
course,
it's also very important for the artist
to know what they are signing into.
Yeah, because I've seen some contracts outside of Amaranthe sphere, so to speak, that is just who would ever sign this kind of things.
Yeah.
Like some contract, side note, some contract I read was like, where is this sort of valid? And it's simply stated in the now known universe. All right, in the now known universe. But maybe tomorrow they discover a different star. Would that make the what is that? And it was like worldwide and beyond. And just why even put that in a contract?
Yeah.
But yeah, that's first year signing and then starting to work on the first album and heading off to Denmark for recordings.
Yeah. And at some point you went on your first European kind of tour with a Toyota or something.
Yeah, there was Elise and Jake. They were sort of backup singers for this American band called Camelot that did a European tour. So Jake and Elise, they were sort of part of that tour as backup singers and such. And we managed to wheel and deal that we were welcome to be opening up for them in, like, was it Copenhagen, Stockholm, Gothenburg, Helsinki, Turku, and Oslo. And them two, they were of course traveling on the tour bus, and after the show they just packed their gear up and they went to sleep in a tour bus, while me, Olof, Andy, and Morten, we were the cool kids. We actually did that in a Toyota, a Vensis we got to borrow from Toyota in Gothenburg, and literally just drove behind the bus as much as we could. So they went off with the bus, sleeping while traveling. We partied, went to a hotel, slept pretty much too little, and then got into the car and drove to the next city. And it was really, really exhausting, but it was fun. It was nice to be sort of encountering that kind of touring. It brings some good memories. So actually,
when was the first tour that you got yourself to be in a tour bus then?
Well, for me personally, it was later. I can't remember if it was Hammerfall tour or another Camelot tour that we did. I know that Olof and Morten had done tours with real tour buses before, but this was the first time with me and for me, and I think it was Hammerfall. And it was like all in all 7-week Europe tour, and it was a lot of fun. Hammerfall had their own bus, and we had our bus, and we had a lot of fun. It was crazy, and I'm surprised that we all survived with some sort of sanity left. But yeah, that was I think it was Hammerfall. I'm not swearing to it, but most likely it was, or Camelot. But I don't know. I can't remember. But it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. This is the question that I ask everybody. When was the first time that you thought that the hard work is starting to pay off? And this doesn't, like I said with Jan at the last interviewee, I said that this doesn't really have to be like streams or money or anything, but just when did it start to feel for you that this is something that you would like to do, and it's worth the while, so to speak? Because people tend to kind of measure these things in streams and money and such.
Yeah. Actually, it's a very difficult question to answer because it sort of grows with time. And I think I most likely a completely different story than last time, or answer, because I think it sort of changes on how you look at it. But I think that when I discovered that this is sort of being something, it's so many things. But I know that we went 10 years ago, actually pretty much on the day, we got to play this show in Tunisia with Symphony X. And it was this show put together just after the Arabian Spring revolution.
Yeah.
Getting there to play for people who has not been able to sort of go to metal shows before and see this sort of happiness and just how insanely crazy that was in a lot of ways, both on and off stage. It was insane. And you see how happy people were about all this. And I think that was one of those moments where you felt like you actually made a difference, where you actually contributed with something and you got something much more valuable than money or stream numbers or whatever. It's sort of this feeling of putting a smile on someone's face.
Yeah.
And giving people a good feeling.
Yeah.
And I think that the feeling you can give people with music, of course, money is unfortunately a big motivator, but also this feeling when you see someone appreciating what you do and really loving it, and just be happy to sort of shake your hands or get an autograph afterwards, it can be more rewarding than any royalties or anything yet that you get.
And of course the feeling of playing live and like what you get for yourself in a way, but you make others feel good, but you also make yourself feel good. And
it's a very strange sort of symbiosis. I go up and play, and someone gets really happy because we are up on stage and playing, and then in return that happiness that person gets because we are on stage sort of spreads back to us, and we get happiness from that happiness or energy, sort of. So it's this sort of perfect symbiosis, and it's very, you can't put a value on that. And it's one of those things, and I think that show especially, that was one of those moments that was just sort of
clicked in a way.
In one way.
This is the end of part 2 with Johan Andreassen. To hear more about his current situation and how he has been coping during the lack of live shows during the pandemic, listen to part 3.